Okay, it's 9 o'clock.
And close the door.
We'll call the meeting to order. And Deborah, when you come back, if you could take
Yeah,
a roll
ready,
call, please.
ready?
Here.
Star. Here. Castile.
Here.
Hines is excused. Jennings.
Here.
Singh.
Here.
And Byram.
Here.
Okay.
Next is the approval of the minutes from the meeting of July 28th. Any changes from what was sent out? Seeing none, they are approved. Deborah, anything on member forum?
So we don't have any in person, and let me double check. The forum, no member forums. That concludes the member forum for
Okay.
today.
I have no announcements except to say that Jeff's in traffic and will be here as soon as he can.
I just got in. It's a parking lot.
Yeah. Speak of the devil, here's Jeff.
I just got in.
Apologies.
No problem. So we're up to your agenda item. If you have any comments you want to
Jump right
make.
in.
Only comments would be that please join us on the 8th and 9th for the budget hearings. And fireside starting at 9 a.m. That's it.
Okay. We'll give Todd a few seconds to get organized.
I have one question on the budget meetings. What do we get sent to us so that we're prepared to go into the budget meeting?
Yeah, so you get an electronic version of the budget binder packet. Everyone will get an email version of that, but those of you who have asked for a printed copy will receive one. It'll be in my office table for pickup on September 3rd. Timing is to be announced.
Okay, September 3rd.
She'll send out an email when they're ready. I think they'll be
We'll
ready.
have electronic versions ready on the 3rd. If you require a hard copy, it may be a little beyond that, but electronic versions.
Todd?
Yes,
Are you ready to go through the financial statements?
yes.
Okay.
Let's do it. Well, the trust is up. Well, let's go ahead and start with the capital fund. It's there for everyone. All right. So through July, we are showing $128,000 loss, but also as the script knows, we've talked about in prior months, we have, the board moved the maintenance fee in here, so this is normal for us to be seeing compared to prior years because we're running the maintenance fee through here. You're gonna see this fund, be in a loss situation. And as I mentioned last month, the membership transfer fee is booked as equity. So it doesn't show us as income, right? So the income you see up here is really just the interest income off the cash. So you're gonna see this loss, obviously continue to grow through the year, which is expected given the move from Rossmore Walnut Creek into the trust for all the asset maintenance. Any questions on that? Yeah, Adrian.
Is there a way that we can see a report that, I realize this isn't strictly accounting and accounting, but that enables us to see that in fact we are operating positively as far as capital is concerned?
Yeah, I think, obviously if you look at both the gross on the balance sheet, we can do, Adrian, we've talked about, we're not quite there yet to do like a comparative balance sheet, but we've talked about in the past to show the growth on the balance sheet and the assets. So if you were to drive down where it says here under the balance sheet, membership transfer fee of that 62 million, if you were to separate that out by month, you would see all the MTF revenue flowing in there every month, right? So,
And just to, you know, but like I say, it's just sort of, if I were doing it myself, I'd have a little spreadsheet that said, how much money did I get in? How much money did I spend? How much money do I have left over in this
Right.
account? And I realize it doesn't meet GAAP standards, but that's what we kind of need to
Is
see.
there a way in the capital account to have a line item for the current year's transfer fee?
you know, it's just creating another GL account. I mean, I think one of the things that I'm exploring within NetSuite, kind of speaks to what Adrian is saying, you know, the cash flow shows other equity. It shows the increase in other equity for this year, right? So that 3.5 million is kind of the, you know, the membership transfer fee that's coming in. One of the things that I would like to see, obviously going from and I think this is also would very much serve the mutuals too on the cash flow statement, is moving the canned indirect cash flow into a more direct cash flow, which shows sources of cash and uses of cash. I think it's more kind of just intuitive for people to read versus making adjustments to net income. And so we are starting to explore maybe trying to augment or replace the indirect cash flow with a direct cash flow. We could, Adrian, on like this other equity line, the cash flow statement doesn't have the expanded capabilities like you would see on the balance sheet, where we expand account. It's kind of a fixed can report based on the GL accounts. So, you know, I would, you know, what we could do though for this group, and, you know, probably is above where the board needs to be, but we could footnote the other equity like on this cash flow and show sources of cash for the month or for the year and just kind of highlight what's come in.
Are we gonna be able to see comparative balance sheets soon? Because if we can do that, then it's just the change in equity. You can see it right there.
Yeah, so I've been playing with the comparative balance sheets and it's just how it looks at the period, right? So right now they all look at end of year to period, right? Which would probably be okay on the balance sheet.
So it's 12/31 to,
Yeah.
instead of July 31st to July 31st.
So it doesn't go July. And so then the question is, you know, how do we best intuitively do that? I mean, obviously you're in balance sheet to the activity that's happened in the first, but it's not technically comparative from period to
Right, but it
period.
still shows the change in the, like, it would show the change, actually be better for this case, because it
For
would show.
this
the-
case, it would be worse probably for the income if you're trying to compare
Yeah,
earnings from one period to the other period.
so maybe we just do the 12/31 balance sheet to the current.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
one of those enhancements, you know, pick our battles, but.
and this shows we've spent $2.3 million in cash, because we spent more in fixed assets than we took in the transfer fees.
Yeah, presumably most of that.
Some of that's a reduction in accounts receivable too, right?
So one of the things that obviously, even one of the things on the receivable that we've never done here from an accounting treatment, and I know McCare brought it up in the audit committee, and it's just one of those things out there, instead of, you know, showing, so some of that accounts receivable also is notes due on the financed MTF, right? So 780,000 of receivables are where people come in and finance their MTF, right? And we've shown that as an AR versus a equity. It should technically be down there as a contra equity account, and we've just never done that, right? So we'll probably make that change for 2027. It's not gonna happen this year, but to move that AR, because it's not truly really a traditional accounts receivable. And this is something that's been out there since the beginning of time here. It's just one of those things, and how as we mature and grow and how we want to do some, you know, different classifications on that, so.
Okay, any other questions on capital fund? If not, let's go on to the next one.
RPM. Let's start. Okay, so on the RPM side, once again, we didn't really have any of our variance thresholds that we speak to. You can see here that there's no detail behind necessarily the revenue account. So I would say the biggest thing that we've talked about here is, we made up the billable revenue and reserve, right? So we're slightly over what we budgeted on the billable reserve revenue, but we are still under on the operating. And I know that we're all looking at, and Jeroen and John Tier going through that with a fine tooth comb as we've been forecasting that for the budget hearings coming up, right? In terms of timing on that, we did have in prior, December was a larger month because we were collecting a lot of, outstanding catch-ups in the system, and also just getting billables out there. So we are working on forecasting that, but I would say that's the single biggest number up there that's kind of driving our loss on the bottom line. If you look at the expense side, everything is pretty much, the size of budget, we're $14,000 within expenses. So, and obviously on the regular income statement, you have all the detail behind each one of these categories. So we'll be going through this obviously with the budget hearings on the 8th and 9th. But, I think it's something to be said, we consistently budget in the operating reserve revenue, but it's really kind of a, how do we actually control that sales funnel and bring revenue in if a mutual decides not to use our services and go to a third-party vendor? And so, as I've mentioned in the past, I think that's an area of concern and risk depending on how much we put in there, because it's something that we can be fully staffed and it doesn't mean that we can just control a sales funnel that the revenue will show up, right? So it's something that we're gonna, like I said, forecast. And I think it's something that, this group should obviously be concerned about in terms of the, just overall how we come up with our revenue estimates for that when we potentially don't necessarily have control.
So because your revenue's down so much, I'm assuming you don't have staff sitting around doing nothing. They're doing other stuff. They're staying busy. So how would you, assuming that other revenue came in, would you have to hire more staff? Or how would
No,
that
we
work?
don't need more staff. Well, I really think that, with the conversion to the new system, conversion to FSM, there's some dollars out there that are lost that we need to find, right? Like, so going through with a fine tooth comb, we have carpenters that in the early years or the early months of the year, it's raining, so they're cleaning gutters and stuff, right? So we found like $50,000 in revenue that we need to capture, that because the carpenter crews weren't working on a rehab, they were working on cleaning gutters. It's that kind of thing that we really got to focus in on and really try to find every single dollar that's there, because the hours were worked. That's the thing, the hours were worked. We're not short on hours. Obviously with expenses, you can see the expenses, we're not short on expenses. So I really do believe that it is a conversion situation, but every single avenue I think it is and go down, it's not there, right? At first I was like, oh, well, we aren't charging service fees this year. That's a new thing. We're gonna collect service fees at the end of the year. But you can see the service fees are actually a little bit over on revenue. So every single avenue that I go down, it's like, oh, it's not it. So, but I am looking diligently and I'm trying to figure out what's going on so we can rectify it.
Anything else under RPM? Okay.
Okay, on RWC, from where we are right now, we're still showing a surplus, well, let me make this bigger, sorry. All right, so bottom line, we're still running a surplus of 662 over a budget of 252, or $400,000 over budget. If you look at
It's basically insurance, right?
Yeah.
yeah, it's the same thing as we talked about, it's insurance. this is the annual budget, sorry. Yeah, so as we highlight those variance areas, so obviously we knew we'd be continuing to run a surplus in insurance. That's gonna continue through this year. Obviously, we're gonna have, when we look at the insurance for the budget next year, we are, getting our minds wrapped around and everyone in this group in terms of kind of a bifurcated year with our policy going from June through May and then June through May again, right? So we have, we're gonna still have one budget, but we're gonna have where we've probably straight lined in the past, you're gonna see it not be amortized like every 12 months. We're gonna put in the, assumptions for the June through December piece and then the January through May piece as we build 27th budget. Obviously, this budget was built on a straight line. We're gonna see those surpluses kind of increase a little bit throughout the year, but not to the same magnitude. And then utility bills, we also had flagged this month. Just in total, it's only at 103%. And some of that is just, there's a couple under the gas electric, that's just timing of bills when we get those in, yeah.
Sorry, my brain's maybe a little bit slow. I wanted to back up to the RPM issue. If the year ended where we were negative on revenue with RPM, where does that variance go? Does it flow through to coupon anyway? Or is somebody, I mean, you can't.
The negative variance in
holding the bag.
operating, the negative variance in operating gets made up by a positive variance in member records and alterations in resales. So they offset the two offset each other. Correct, Todd?
Well, I think so let's go to 50,
Not coincidental.
let's go to a 50,000 foot level, right? The management fee is obviously, both of these groups are designed to break even, right? So within the management agreement and how we do that, we know that we're not gonna ever hit it exactly spot on, right? So depending on the magnitude of the surplus and or deficit, right? It would be the conversation within the management agreement of how that deficit is either made up or how it is refunded, right? And so we have in there a working capital kind of number, right? That we will operate within a band, right? And so if that band goes over 750,000, 800,000, right? So let's say we had over $1 million surplus, we'd look to potentially how do we, credit back the mutuals on that. If it was $1 million loss, we'd have to come to the table and say, right,
You take a hit in cash, it doesn't go back to the mutuals or get distributed or.
No, the only time we really, in practice it can, but we did it once with the PPP money. So when we actually got the refunded on the PP money, we actually refunded all that money to the mutuals, right? Certainly since my reign and prior, we haven't had a situation where, we're $100,000 or $2 million over. If you actually looked in the back, we probably sucked up a little bit of a loss, and so that's a conversation I think as we truly, that's why the audit and stuff, everything is so important, right? So we can go back and actually close here and make adjustments compared to where we actually were with budget, and then either adjust the budget accordingly and or have conversations on that surplus and shortfall. But it's still within a band, right? We're not gonna start chasing and refunding $100,000. It needs to be a fairly large, significant variance to have that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, apart from accounting and everything, I'm trying to determine, is there a problem here that we're staffed up to service the mutuals and the mutuals aren't paying us for that? I mean, and what would we do if that was a problem, like number one, in terms of crediting back or charging the mutuals or coming up with mitigating strategies?
I think that if we had people sitting around not doing work, we'd start to look to lay people off. That's what we would need to do to control our expenses if we're not bringing revenues in, right? And so that is definitely a consideration that we could go down, but I just don't think that we're there right this moment.
And this statement about it's offset by alterations, what's that?
So overall, if you look in the RPM budget, it consists of several departments. What we're mostly concerned with is we're trying to break even, is what is the bottom line. So we take in revenue from alterations for, through sales, through permits and everything else. that revenue typically exceeds our estimate or we project it to, and it somewhat offsets a loss in billable services.
But we're still 250,000 to the negative.
For sure.
At the moment.
Combined all, as of July 31st.
Yes.
As of that date.
Yes.
So it offset, but up to 252. Okay. Yep.
So I have another question for you,
Sure, Ken.
going back to the insurance. So I know there was an effort to try and lock in insurance for the second half of 27 potentially. Is that still being talked about?
Yeah, we're trying to lock in, do what's long-term agreements with the property side of things so that we have 27 already fairly well locked in at about a 3 to 5% decrease. Where that varies a little bit then is if valuations go up, that would, our goal is to pretty much budget flat plus 5%.
Do we expect valuations to go up?
I would expect, see, we held valuations flat last year through the work that Kroll did with us. So likely this year, you'll see a slight increase in valuations.
And you have the new pickleball facility at $4.5 million to go
Right.
add to that also.
Right, to add.
Which is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, RWC doesn't really move the
Yeah,
needle
yeah.
on
It's the
mutuals.
yeah.
So I have a question about the RWC income statement. This is not about particular numbers here, but more of a general concern. We budget for a full number of people for bus drivers so that we could provide a full service. But we know we can't find people. So we're always under on that. That doesn't show up here. I mean, it's buried in the employee number. And so, I mean, we deliver service by, transportation, resident service, various different parts of resident services. We budget by those. We budget by the department. And we deliver service by the department, but we don't see it here. So we don't really know if one department is overspending or underspending.
And we used to get those reports under GenArc that showed the profit and loss for each department. We used to get that so we could see compared to budget. I remember we used to get those. We don't get those anymore. That's a good point. Todd, do you remember those reports we used to get in GenArc? That used to show revenue.
We used to give you more departmental breakdown.
Departmental breakdown.
So you're suggesting we go back to GenArc?
No.
Good old days.
I was suggesting that we used to get something that I think you're right. I think we should.
So obviously that is all available. I think it's just depending on how granular this, group wants to get versus the board. As we know, we can certainly, easily run departmental. We run departmental P&Ls because, like right now in the budget cycle, right? We look at departments. So Ann looks at all our departments, right? So we have all that. It's just.
And you'll see that next month when we do the budget.
Obviously, I know.
And so forth, but
It's just that, on an ongoing basis, we're not
maybe on
actually checking that.
maybe on a quarterly basis.
Just wrote
maybe
that
that's-
down,
that's-
quarterly. Can we get that on a quarterly basis? So I don't think we need it every. I don't
We
think-
can certainly, we've talked about, how maybe if we were to look at, the agendas for this group for a calendar year, like say 27, we've talked about what is that quarterly
Yep.
deep dive maybe look like,
Yep.
where we go into departmental stuff. And I
Yep.
think we can certainly, have an agenda where we look at departmental quarterly numbers.
I agree.
And if you get it on a quarterly basis, maybe we need to set some thresholds over which we do a more deeper dive on some departments rather than others,
Yeah, this sort of anticipates what I was gonna say during the deep dive, but If we say part of the finance committee's job is to ensure that we have effective expense management and expense controls here. So what we need to know is, how does each department manage to the budget? And do we, what kind of processes are in place? For my part, I don't want more reports. I don't think it's necessarily my job to look at more reports, but I want to know that each department, there's a monthly process in place. They receive the reports, they look at it, they have feedback on that. I think that's the case because during budget meetings, we have the managers, they're so well informed and conversant with their numbers. But if there's a way to bring that information into the finance committee, I don't really need more reports. I mean, we're already overwhelmed in data, I think. But if we could just say we would like Todd or the department heads or Jeff, or I'm not sure, however it would go, to let us know from the top of the house, we have this variance, this department's hurting, this department's is offset, alterations is coming in positive, whatever, so that we hear from you at that kind of level. And that we know that the expense management is in place.
I'd rather see numbers on a quarterly basis to verify what you're just saying. I'd like to, especially if it's a 2-page report. I don't want a 50-page or 100-page report, but if we get it just at a very top level, and then we can set parameters to dive into ones that are significantly different, I think that's the way I would prefer to go.
Yeah.
Versus
I mean, I
just
think-
getting
We can
a
do
Todd
both.
coming up and
Yeah,
going.
both, that's what I'm saying,
Todd
both
coming up,
and.
yeah, going like that.
Yeah, nice little neat schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
Blah, 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 here's the departments,
Yeah,
how they're
absolutely.
doing, and you know that we want that information on a regular basis and we speak to it.
Yep, I agree.
So we'll
So I think once we do the deep dive on the stuff initially, then we should set thresholds
Absolutely.
so that we can focus on the more bigger.
Just like we do on the variances on here, we'll
Exactly.
set thresholds and anything, and we can adjust the thresholds as we always can. But as we're going through there, we get the report and there's 2 or 3 departments that we get a deeper dive on. Because they're either exceeding or not exceeding budget.
Why don't we work with you and Adrian on what that might look like
Okay.
in frequency?
Yep, okay. Todd, I have a question on the balance sheet on this.
Yeah.
Account 20021 payroll accrual is a negative $656,000. I don't understand how you can have a debit and a payroll accrual. I am confused. And that's a big swing.
Get down to the balance sheet.
Where is it
18,
under?
on 18, 6B18,
Yeah,
Under
what line again?
count number
Oh, I see, yeah.
20021,
Yeah,
payroll
finally
accrual.
found it.
Yeah, one above accrued vacation,
Minus 656.
minus 656.
Yeah, I would have to look. Amanda, are you online?
She is right now. She is online, but maybe she's not.
Wait, there she is.
Yeah, I want to speak with.
She moved in.
Hey, Amanda, are you there?
She's gonna support them.
She must have trouble because she unmuted something. She said
She
she's
said she-
muted.
She said what?
She's muted.
No, she's unmuted.
Amanda, you're logged on twice. One of them is muted, one of them is not.
Let me unmute that one.
Trying to speak.
Wonder if she did a.
Todd, you can get back to us later. If you would send out an email or something,
Yeah.
please.
And also this is as you guys all requested, right? So I think this is the first time, not the first time, but the committee last month requested an expanded balance sheet, right? So this month expands all the, where we had collapsed categories. And so I would just, maybe outside this meeting, but if there are actual individual questions, that Amanda and I can respond to if you have them on, now that you're seeing some more detail here on the balance sheet, please go ahead and submit those and we can, be prepared to answer next month or get back to you.
And this would also be very helpful if we had the December 31st balances or the prior year, because we don't know, it's hard to say, is the accrued vacation of 765,000, is that a
Right.
normal number or is that
Right.
5 times what it was? We don't really know without
Right.
going, David's point, going back, look at statements last month and comparison, and I don't do that, so. Any other question? Well,
She wrote you a little note. She said, I'm looking at the entry. It seems as though the payroll that ended 7/31 was put to cash versus accrual. Typically, we do an entry to put it into accrual and reverse when the cash clears the bank. So it's just an accounting process.
So cash is off too?
Let me get back to the group.
Okay.
It is, it's got
Negative 630.
same numbers, negative 630,
Oh, I did.
credit and cash.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so they kind of offset.
Can you go back to that balance sheet?
Yeah.
Go up top, go up.
To work with.
Kind of offset,
Payroll accrual.
656.
Okay.
and 630.
Okay. Okay, there's her comment, it's in cash, okay,
You're just gonna sit.
thank you. Okay. I caught half of it, not the other half, but that's okay.
You're no longer paid as an auditor.
Yeah.
Well, but by catching this half, the other
The
half. I
balance sheet.
caught.
Right.
Come on, no one else had the question.
Yeah, right. You're good at that.
Oh, good.
Okay, consolidated then, Todd?
Yeah. All right, so on a consolidated basis, obviously the roll-up of all of RWC, RPM, and the capital fund. We talked this really is our total entities, so you can see here, obviously they are completely, separate in a lot of ways, but in terms of just the role position and how we ultimately look at our total entity, you could say that we're running $148,000 positive variance on income. That would obviously take into account all the other revenue sources from RPM. It would take into account the loss on the trust in terms of, once again, it doesn't speak to the revenue coming into the trust from equity, right? So the MTF dollars would not be in here, as we've discussed.
And depreciation still not in there.
And that's so the fixed asset module in NetSuite and the finalized fixed asset for 2025 will be done with the final journal entries, and so Amanda still has that to do.
Because depreciation is a big number, it takes that profit to a big loss, but
Right,
not
so
a
that's
cash,
a-
not a cash loss.
Right, so all that stuff that's in, all the stuff that's in WIP that can be capitalized needs to be, right? Some of that also, Dan, the implementing charges in NetSuite that are still sitting in WIP. So.
Any other questions in total on the financial statements? Before we get off statements, you want to briefly spend 2 minutes on the audit and where we stand and what's going on with that?
Yeah, so, as this group knows, we did have a meeting last week, which we felt we were gonna have more of a finalized draft. CBIZ, our auditors, pushed back a little, I think, inappropriately on some of our team in terms of some of the challenges in renewing the new chart of accounts and continual testing that they've been asking for. I did hear back from McCare last night. And she has one more intercompany question for Amanda on intercompany revenue. However, it's gone through their quality equity. They have no bigger variances. To your point, when we looked at the draft audit that we did receive, in terms of changes to that draft audit, and so we're still on plan to get it and meet on the 4th and have it approved on the 8th. And so I will have that clear direction, hopefully in a day today or first thing in the morning.
Will that be distributed to us? Before it goes to the board or?
Goes to the audit committee,
But since, because of the condensed timeline, what we'll probably be doing is hitting the audit committee, followed immediately by the board. So to that degree, we'll probably be getting it out to everybody.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not thinking about reviewing it or
I don't have
having
a
the
problem
opportunity
sharing it, it's not
to-
like.
Yeah, it's just more,
It will be out there in the minutes too, for the audit committee minutes. But if I have any say in the matter, also the last audit that CBIZ does for us for a while.
Yeah, we're just at a little bit of a holding pattern right now until we can get the exact schedule down, when those meetings will be scheduled and when we can populate the agenda packet.
Okay, anything else, Todd?
No, not my point.
All right.
Like I said, we're right in the middle of budget, so a lot of this, will come into the hearings in a couple weeks.
Ann?
I wanted to share, unless Todd was gonna drive.
I don't mind driving this.
Thank you. So just a quick overview of the capital projects. So everything that we have going is doing quite well. Our big ticket item, the pickleball court project. So we anticipate the construction will be done the end of September.
Put the floor in and the nets are in now too.
Yeah, if you kind of, from the parking lot, you can peek in, it's really pretty spectacular. The delay has been material delivery of the fencing and the windows, and so that's expected early September for both. So then we can get everything installed and opened. We'll probably do an opening event in October, even though, I mean, if it opens, people can play in it, but we'll do an event in October. And we've just been taking a look at all of the, the budget. What you see here is what we've paid so far. We do have invoicing coming in and whatnot. And we are projecting that we'll be under budget. So we're pretty happy about that. And so everything else that we have is in the process of, we're trying to essentially get construction documents on things like the roof replacement, of the skylight at Tice, the golf course lake liner, the bridge replacement, all to bring to the capital budget. So, because we'd like to be in construction phase next year on all of those.
When will the solar panels go on top of the pickleball? Is that in
We're not gonna work with them until we are clear, just because they have to work on both the event center and the pickleball facility. The other thing I'll just say for the room here, you have a lot of people that are club members on the committee. We did a sound test because we wanted to know, like, can they be working on the event center over the next few months when it tends to be heavily occupied? You hear everything from the roof, so we have to kind of find the clear days, and so we need to work with the solar company to coordinate that installation. It probably won't start till mid-October.
I'm just curious to know if the $4.5 million, the pickleball money, includes the landscaping costs?
It does.
And so when does that work?
So they need to get everything complete. So right now you'll see that they're grading, and then they have to do the flat work, so all of the concrete work that has to happen, and then the landscaping will come in. So that's like the very last part of the project to occur.
Yeah, so what, next year?
No, it's just, no,
They're
September.
And they're planting a forest, I understand.
Excuse me?
Planting a forest there to cover.
That was a rumor.
Yeah, exactly, 200 trees.
No. 5.
Yeah, 5. Okay.
And the golf bridge replacement, where's that?
So we're in the construction document phase for that, so we need that so we can bid it out to bring an estimate as a placeholder for the capital project. So we should have those ready to bid in early September. So we can bring something October when we start talking about capital.
So Ann, I think a couple of months ago, we saw some spreadsheets which were on a longer term capital budget. And I don't know if this is the right time, but in terms of a deep dive, one of the possibilities is to look at the long cycle of the capital budget, and so we don't get a sense of the kind of infrastructure stuff which needs to be updated over the long term. It does come up every year in terms of different kinds of things and stuff like that.
So when we do the capital process, we do a 5-year outlook for any of the big items of the ongoing maintenance that are gonna
That's a couple, we'll
potentially
do
come
that in a
at
couple
us.
months.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think if you look at it longer than 5 years, in terms of the cycle of the infrastructure, kind of maintenance and stuff like that, you get a better sense of what the long-term needs are.
I think so, we do a 30-year reserve study,
Yeah.
which includes the roads that have a 30-year life and so on.
They do
And
the-
some of our buildings, I mean, I guess they have longer lives than 30, but I agree, a 5-year look at what you think you're gonna be needing. If something is gonna be a $20 million cost, but it's out in 8, 10 years or whatever, 20 years or something, those kind of things need to be.
So we aren't subject to the same reserve requirements that the mutuals have to maintain. However, we do internally have those planning documents where we have maintenance items, especially for the preservation of our assets, mapped out over the next many years. And then we evaluate those on an annual basis as well and try and schedule them to keep it somewhat flat throughout the course of the 10-year window in terms of expenditures for those. And then we look at the major capital based on the master plan that we have and bring those to you for prioritization on a basically annual.
Okay, so you're looking out 10 years, that's
We look out 10 years in kind of the window, but in terms of maintenance and cadence of maintenance on RWC property, we have that fairly well mapped out. I mean, you're looking at the pool replaster and the roofing and those types of infrastructure.
So there's a lot of, obviously there's a lot of some amount of flexibility in terms of capital budget because some things can be deferred and some things are more imminent and stuff like that. So getting a sense of the long cycle in terms of what is imminent and what can be deferred, and aligning it with the possible changes in the revenue because we've been changing our MTF fee quite a bit. I think that kind of long-term projections will give us a better sense of the issues involved in terms of revenue and also in terms of expenditure.
Yeah, so as Dan mentioned, we'll start really focusing in on the capital in October. And then it's a several month run that we really focus in on capital.
Anything else for Ann? Let's move to the MTF.
So sales for July, we had 38 with 30 producing the fees, 8 transfers internally, so existing members transferring to different locations. Fee revenue was $540,000 for the year. We're at $3.5 million compared to last year. Even though we had more sales, we were at $3.1 million. So increasing the MTF to 18,000 was a good move in terms of revenue generation. The market globally still is quite variable. Interest rates are hit the highest that they've been this last month. And insurance still continues to be a struggle on the outside. So keep in mind, people need to sell their homes to a buyer on the outside before they're able to relocate. So we are subject to not just internal conditions, but external conditions. Inventory in Rossmore continues to be healthy. We are hovering about 94 to 104 units available. So there is inventory, there is interest. There's just a lot of kind of global markets that are influencing sales right now. But revenue continues to come in and hit our target.
But it doesn't look like we're gonna meet our 400 unit total at this point. Now, not a lot of time left, we're only 7/12 of the way through,
but we did adjust that down, I think to 380 or 360.
Did we adjust it down? I don't think we
Yes.
did.
In our budget, capital projection.
Okay, I didn't remember that.
Jeff, is there any anecdotal evidence that the MTF is throwing people off or dissuading people from coming here? A big problem?
I would say that there might be some comments to that effect, but if you're looking to purchase a unit and move into a community where you know that the assessments are going to be rising, that $18,000 one-time fee would not be a factor that would dissuade you. And if it was, then, and you're financially that strapped, then the continuing escalation in assessments is probably going to be a factor. So we're definitely in a situation though where I think overall assessments are more of a factor than the one-time MTF fee in consideration.
Coupons
The
is
coupons.
what you're talking about. Yeah.
I have a question. We know how many are up for sale. We get that number from the real estate people that keep showing us. Do we have any idea of how many units are not occupied? Meaning like somebody died that owned, the son or daughter owns it now, but they're saying, hey, I'm not gonna put it up for sale, I'm gonna leave it empty. Maybe I'll think about renting it, but I'm just concerned about knowing how many are just sitting there, not being rented, not being sold.
Yeah, we don't have that information. We have the information of what is being leased,
Yes.
right? So we can run that report. We know what is leased, but if somebody inherits a piece of property and then they don't use it, we don't know that per se. There's no reporting factor.
I just have a feel that number's going up, because again, when we were looking at trying to become director of the board, you start knocking at everybody's home. Normally you don't do that. If you try and run for an office, you contact people, and it's amazing to me how many of them I go by.
But that's true, and it's been true for a long time.
My question is it a little bit more now?
I can't say whether it's more or less, but
Yeah.
I mean, I've noticed that. You try and do an election, for example, as a mutual, and you need to get 50% of, if you're trying to change the CC&Rs,
Sure.
you need 50% of the overall membership. And you never get 100% of the ballots. If you're lucky, you get 70. Generally, it's only 60 to 70%. And if you go dig into it, you find that, well, this person's off in assisted living, this person's in, has died and it's still in the estate, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it is about 20, 30%.
I'm just hoping that the sales can start to increase, so we get more revenue coming in.
Yeah, but
And I think that once if we ever get the interest rates start to come down again, then I think any of those that are just sitting there are gonna say, I wanna get sold now and get my money. And that's gonna help us. I'm just hoping it's gonna move back up in sales.
could we move on to the charts I put together?
Yes.
So I can address that question.
So it looks like 400 units for MTFs is our budget.
I made a mistake. It apparently was 380. But if we go to the third one there, 14-year sales history. Yeah. Keep going. There. Okay, that's it for the last 14 years. It's been going down every year. Okay? Now, is that bad news or good news? That's actually very good news. Because what it means is people are living here longer. They're living longer, and they're staying here. They're not leaving.
We don't know that.
Well, no, because the inventories remain constant. Inventory stays in the 100 home range all the time. Or sometimes it goes down to 50. Sometimes it goes up to 150, but it doesn't.
But that's not on your chart anymore.
No, it isn't, but.
So based on that chart, that's just one of the factors that affects sales. People are living longer. there are other factors that may or may not be influencing that.
Yes, there may be some others, but generally speaking, they're not selling their homes as quickly as they used to.
Agree with that.
And whether that means they're living longer or back then they said, oh shit, this place is terrible, I'm getting out of here, and selling their home or whatever it might be. Actually, it means people are staying here longer, apparently, for whatever reason it may be. But, so it's, in some ways, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. Now, from an MTF perspective, yes, it's a bad thing, but from what our residents want, I mean, in some ways it says, well, they're getting what they want, so they're not leaving.
Or maybe they're moving in earlier. There could be a lot of different, yeah.
Could be a lot of reasons.
A lot of different
Because
reasons.
the median age has not changed, I think.
No.
So I think one issue, it's good to track the amount of sales, but I think, I hate to say this, but might appear too academic. So it might be good to construct a simple forecasting model for just the revenue from MTF and put in like 4 or 5 different kinds of economic cycle variables, including the inventory, like 5 or 6 usual suspects you can throw in there. I think we'll get a better sense of the fluctuation in the MTF revenue. And you can also throw in the changes we have made in terms of the MTF fee, and that'll give you a coefficient. That coefficient will actually give you a sense of how much the changes actually leads to a rise in revenue. And where the tipping point is in terms of the elasticity, where if the price, if you keep raising the revenue, keep raising the price of the MTF, the revenue might actually start falling. So a simple kind of forecasting model, which can be run in regression, really. I mean, in Excel, simple kind of regression in Excel.
Yeah, so I have tried that.
Yeah, okay. So maybe
You don't have enough data.
No coefficient arises.
You don't have enough data to really generate a regression where you can apply any.
so you got monthly data for.
Yeah, but it fluctuates, it's very noisy.
Ah.
And so anyway, it's very hard to do much, other than just an overall trend.
Todd, are sales by mutual still on your to-do list? Okay.
The one thing that isn't shown here.
Yeah, we're actually really close. Sherry, I met with Sherry last week and a half ago, and she's finalizing being able to extract that. That data is in memory record, it's just a report. So she's doing a report that actually shows, because one of the things I ironically don't see in here is also the Waterford sales, right? And so think about, there's a large portion of 58 sales that are flowing through MTFs as well. So it's a good report and we're close.
Okay, good.
One thing this doesn't show is if units were being held by a family, let's say, and turned into rentals. So the thing we need to see the number of rentals. I think we have that information.
Yeah, I can run the report.
So if we could see a backward view of that, that would be a really helpful thing.
That's a good point.
Now, we do charge that, I can't remember the new
We used
name
to call
for
it
it.
FUF fee. We used to call it
Yes.
FUF. We used to-
Amenity usage,
Facility and
Amenity fees.
amenity usage fees.
Yeah,
Okay.
AUF. FUF is better.
In a way, that number, that should be added to our MTS. And then you might see the MTF, the capital contribution would be more flattened, even if we do end up being far more rental than we used to be. Because there used to be that state law, no, there didn't used to be a state law. And so all the mutuals had, like, limits.
Very strict limits.
Very strict limits on rental.
25%.
And now that law about, what was it, 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, took away that limit. And so now, I mean, we could have 100% rentals. I mean, there's no barrier to that.
So most communities have like a 20% or something.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah, most of the mutuals have actually set in a limit on the number of rentals that they can have. somewhere below 5%.
Yeah, I guess yes, I guess the law does allow a 25% limit. But still, we could be at that. And for that matter, and it could be that a commercial developer comes in, okay, and says, hey, I can buy these properties at this price, I can rent them at that price, I can make money doing that. And they never get sold. They're in a corporate environment. And so, so we, as a finance committee, as a board, we need to be understanding that could happen. And we're charging the money for the MTF by the AUF. It should really be reflected in this revenue. That's the bottom line.
Well, yeah,
As I see it.
it goes back to, I had thought when we did it, that we had an argument whether it should be based on your buying into an asset or you're offsetting wear and tear on the facilities. And we elected to look at it as wear and tear on the facilities, but I really don't think that's what it actually is.
Yeah.
How it should be conceived of.
Is that fee, the AUF fee, part of our fee review in here?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't remember seeing that, but okay, so we can talk about that.
I did want to ask, so Jeff, when you say that, you know, if a person has trouble with the 18,000, what man are they going to have trouble with the projected coupon increases? When somebody moves in, are we just relying on the realtors to let them know the situation? Or do we have some way of saying, here's what you can expect in terms of coupon, here's what you get, be advised, you should have enough money in your bank account to accommodate for projected increases and that kind of thing?
So we do rely on the realtors a significant amount, but that's also part of the whole marketing and the new website that we try to put forward, so we can grab a little bit more in the narrative. But yes, there are times when people move in and they will tell us, well, I thought the assessments were the coupon was fixed and it's gone up so much. So it is an educational process that we need to continue to.
Yeah, doesn't mutual one or the condo, the co-op ones, don't they require?
There is a application and a kind of a review, financial review for qualifications for the co-ops.
In the old days, when loans were, you could get loans, getting the loan usually satisfied the mutual. But now since you can't get loan, you gotta provide the co-ops with financial data.
Mm-hmm.
So I think.
Only a few of the
Only the co-ops.
mutual.
Which is about half of the
About
units
half.
here.
You know, going back to what Nancy was saying, maybe the marketing committee is already doing this. There needs to be a simple, like one-page card about what the NTF does and how it funds the capital expenditure and what the coupon payment breaks down, so that buyers can actually just see it in simplified terms. Because there's a lot to sell in terms of the facilities which are provided by the coupon fee. We have to simplify it.
We produced all of that information.
Yeah.
But there's also, people that do their due diligence when moving in and they ask the right questions and they do the right research. And there's people that will buy sight unseen over the internet and move in and so it is, we certainly have the information available.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on this?
Well, yeah, just the way that I think of it is like if you pay, like you move into Rossmore, you buy your place, and then you buy into a piece of Rossmore. And part of that is through the MTF, and then there's the present value of the coupon stream over whatever period of time. And that should be the money you have in the bank. That's the total asset purchase to some extent. And if there were like a model, or just to make sure that people understand that that's part of the money you need in the bank in order to live here.
So one other thing about the data around this MTF fee, I think we looked at before when we did a bit of a deep dive, is that the amount of persons who are internally transacting within a trust. I think seeing the rental data and seeing that internal transactions, whether they're going up over time, might be a good idea.
increase so much by mutual by.
Overall.
Yeah, and if you could, Jerome, if you could get that, do you have those rental by mutual too, or
Yeah, we can do it by mutual.
that'd be great.
Yeah, okay,
Can
so
you go
for,
back?
for
Can you-
next month,
Can you go back?
I can go back.
Okay,
How far back do you want me to go?
20, 30 years would be fine.
I can't go back 20 or 30 years, I can go back 2 or 3 years.
That'd be great.
I'll go back as far as we can.
Okay.
Well, go back as far as you
Yeah,
can.
as far as you
because
can.
Yeah.
But
If we could align
if you
it
can
with
start
the-
with 2 or 3 and that's all.
So you're looking just for percentage of rented units, is that what we're talking about?
Number of rental units,
Not a problem.
yeah, the hard
I think
number.
I think we'll
rental
be able to
units.
get that, yeah.
And then,
Well, just having the number isn't very helpful because the mutuals have so many different numbers of.
I was gonna say, we
units in
probably
them.
need total units per mutual too,
Yeah,
so we can get
We have
percentage.
that for sure.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
got
so we
that
can
off the
get-
top of
we
my
get
head.
both.
to do everything.
Yes, yes. Okay, anything else on MTFs? Okay, I'm assuming we have there's no update from the planning committee that we haven't already talked about, right? Okay, all right. Unfinished business, I really want to limit this to about 10, 15 minutes. I just want to go around and if people have ideas, I just want to bring them out there. We'll get a list. It's not going to happen for a while with budgeting and so on and so forth, but we can get a list and then we can start prioritizing the list later. So I'm gonna start, Nancy, do you have things you want to bring up on this deep dive topics?
Yes, I guess to kind of limit the amount of time I take, my biggest concern is with forecasting. Do we have processes in place for forecasting? Because I see our role as a committee, the first role is, are we meeting our coupon? Are we managing expenses and revenues so that the coupon turns out to be what it is? And do we actually have that information? And at this point, we have, there's often just timing variances and we don't really know until once a year at the budget committee meeting. So I really think that, I know we've had a lot of things going on, but the forecasting process is critical. And somehow building forecasting models or using the systems that we have, because we're not really doing job number one, which was, do we think the coupon is correct? And then the second area of concern that I had is we sort of had a change in recent months where the finance committee, where we serve in an advisory role, we don't have any real decision-making capacity, but our job is just to tell the board, yes, we have the money for that. And I'm asking myself, do I really know that? Do I know that on a short-term basis in terms of the reporting and the information that were provided? And do I know that on a long-term basis? Like if I approve X, Y, Z right now, or I tell the board, yes, we have the money, there might be something sitting out there next year or whatever that we need to accommodate for. So it all has to do with kind of longer-term forecasting processes. And in general, it's more of a cultural concern than a specific deep dive topic, but you hear things out there about, are we a rubber stamp? And so I just ask myself, do we operate as a committee in such a way that we're really questioning things and our questions have impact and, we're not a rubber stamp. We're actually, we have some kind of, I don't know if power is the right word.
So Nancy, clarifying question. So when you're talking about forecasting or getting a better sense of our overall payment ability, are you talking about like the capital budget forecasting?
That's another thing, but I think we kind of already talked about that, like on a long-term horizon, like how much is sitting there in the account, how much do we need, how much do we hold for future profit? I'm just talking about general operating expenses, forecast for the year. We told the mutuals, we're gonna charge you this much, and I never have a sense, do we have an excess, or what happens with all these money flows? Number one, is there any risk for the current year? And if there was a risk, what would that mean if there was a surplus or a deficit?
But don't we get that when we look at the to-date
Statement.
versus budget and to-date versus what's left annually? I mean, I feel like I get a pretty good
Yeah.
sense
So do I,
of that.
so do I.
The way we've been building up the reserve, right, over time.
No, we can just see the bottom line of the P and L.
Yeah.
So you see the bottom line, and one's 600,000 positive, one's 200,000 negative, the other one's 100,000 negative. You combine those three, we're within $300,000. I don't care so much about which bucket because it's all right pocket, left pocket. But combined, we're 300,000 ahead of where we said we'd be.
And so Nancy, is it that you just want more detail
No.
for that? Okay. That's what I'm
That
trying
is
to
exactly,
understand.
yeah,
That's what I'm
my
trying to understand,
problem.
Because I think we get it at a very high level. I feel pretty comfortable in what I say and being able to see what the performance is versus what we have budgeted. So maybe I'm missing your point.
And the reason why we changed the wording of our motions that we passed was we weren't saying we're for or against the proposal, like pickleball courts. We didn't care, we weren't saying we're for the pickleball courts or against the pickleball courts, but we're saying, yes, we had the funds to do it. So I
Or
think,
was there a better use of the money?
yeah,
We're not doing that.
We're not doing that. We may, so all we're saying is, and I understand it's hard to say, do we have the cash? I agree with that part of it, but we're saying the funds are available and it's up to the other committees and the board to determine how to spend those funds. We're just saying those funds are available. And I don't think we want to put our personal opinions into whether we say the pickleball courts is a good idea or a bad idea.
We should.
Well, that's the policy committee, right? The policy committee prioritizes.
And the planning. So, but it's down. We got it on the list. Anything else before we move to Kim? Kim?
I guess for me, in terms of doing the deep dives, the biggest thing for me is being able to get one-off information that we ask for. And I think that's one of the things that I see we have a hard time with is requesting information and it takes a while to get it. And, you know, and I don't know that there's a list that we've come up with where we've asked for things and it seems like you track that, Dan?
Sometimes.
But sometimes. And so I just don't know, you know, sometimes I feel like we ask for information and then we never close the loop. And that's, you know, as much on us as anything else. And so kind of the ongoing understanding would be better for me if we closed more loops. So that's really kind of my thing.
Okay. David?
This is a pretty easy one, I think. It has to do with our interest that we get and the interest we pay. And over time, and going forward, I think it would be good to just understand how much extra we're paying because when we have a loan, we're actually going to have to pay actually more money than what we get. But we just take our own money and put it in a CD and get some interest back. So my question is, if you build up enough cash and you knew what your capital plans were going out, then you would have it there for you to use, and you wouldn't have to make a loan because it seems like we have a lot of cash, but then we still go out and get loans on top of that. And I'm just trying to do a little bit of research to say, is there any way to try to use some of our own cash? I don't want to be at risk because we're taking cash out that we need in case we have a problem, you know, insurance problem or something. But on the other hand, if you're paying 3 or 4% more every month on the money you're borrowing versus what you're earning, and you have money to spend, money sitting in the account, I think it's just something to look at and try to say, is there anything we can do with it? Or we say, look at it and say, everything we're doing is fine.
Or could we do something like a line of credit? So that we know we got the money available.
Sure.
But we can then use our cash reserves to,
Okay.
yeah,
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
that's sort of a treasury question.
It's a treasury question.
Yeah.
That's an interesting strategic question. In terms of,
Yeah, that's it goes along with, you know, if you knew what your real capital plan was going out 10 years and which years, like when we do a mutual, we know in 3 years, we're gonna have to replace so many roofs. And that jumps up what you haven't been spending all these other years.
Yeah.
And so now all of a sudden you have to build up the money in order to have that. Otherwise, you're gonna, it's just knowing when you need the money.
Okay,
So I think a couple of issues have already come up, which I think could be prioritized later in some other meeting. So the one about the department review, we're gonna have a fairly detailed review in the annual budget meeting, because everyone's gonna come up and talk about their department and stuff like that. So I think after we absorb that kind of a review, especially for the new members and stuff, then we can basically try to establish some kind of benchmarks for reviewing, some kind of thresholds. So I think I'm a lot in favor of those kinds of benchmarks, because then that forces us to go to the macro strategic issues rather than, looking at the weeds all the time. And then the other issue which has come up in terms of long-term, I think that goes back to part of David's question, is that you need to make some kind of, and also Nancy's concern, I mean, if you're talking about forecasting, the question is what kind of forecasting would be valuable, So like, I think Adrian made a good point that we tried the forecasting for the MTF and it didn't work out. So that's useful information. So for me, it would be the long-term capital budgeting and seeing the cycle in terms of the forecasting for the infrastructure needs, but also in terms of the larger capital needs. And then at some point, aligning that with the MTF fluctuations.
okay. Adrian?
I think the things that have been described.
I just have two other ones. I still think we need to develop KPIs. We should be seeing KPIs on a regular basis that we can partner in Nancy's to see them and say, yes, we're healthy, yes, we're not, with some of those KPIs. I think there's a lot of stuff that goes on between intercompany AR that we have no idea. Maybe a deep dive in some of the intercompany AR stuff would be good. And then the sales by mutual that we've been trying to get for about 2 years now. So.
I did notice in something I looked at that they have the SMART goals incorporated into the budget process. And so they effectively took the work of the Key Performance Indicator Task Force, and you're doing it, right?
Well, we have a goal that the board will be discussing on Thursday that has to do with development of KPIs, and one of them will involve finance.
Okay, that's where I saw it, the board meeting. Yeah, but it's
There
not.
are a bunch of KPIs that are typical of a financial thing, like carbon ratio. I mean, there's a bunch of things like that. CFO that know them far better than I do. But that we should be seeing probably. They should fall right out of NetSuite.
And I think it's really important to really hone in on what those right ones are.
Absolutely.
Because we used to get so much garbage and KPIs that no one cared about, but boy, did we have KPIs to look at, and it was, it's gotta be really focused and.
Right, and maybe as much as anything, we're asking for a dashboard than KPIs, right? So give me some high-level indicators presented in a crisp way, so I can see whether we're on track or not, which I think is behind what I'm saying. I'm not asking for more data. I'm asking for clear presentation of the information so that we know it easily, without me having to dig into every little thing that's there.
See what you got to do.
I'm not inclined to operate in that way.
And is the board interested in having us dive into those KPIs? And is that part of our charter? And is it, it's not spelled out anywhere in what we do, and,
But financial KPIs should be part of our charter because they do track overall financial health.
And I just would want that to be really clear so that I also don't want us to be doing something that is different than what the expectation or request is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, all right, so we have a list, think about it. It won't happen next month, probably with budgeting going on, but we'll, one of these days soon, we'll prioritize that list. We'll move on to new business, the RWC fee review, Jeff, I'm assuming you're doing that?
Yeah, so on an annual basis, we try and, at least for the last several years, bring a update of our fee schedule just prior to completion of the draft budget, so we can incorporate that. Before we get into the fee presentation, I do want to just direct your attention to policy 102.1.1, which is regarding user fees and service charges. If you review that policy, it really outlines what it is that the foundation of Rossmore is based on in terms of budgeting. So Rossmore has a long tradition of policies and practices supported by the shared cost model. So the shared cost model is the coupon. It's where a little portion of the coupon supports just about every amenity, program, service that we operate. And those are the programs and services that are available, not necessarily used, but available to all residents. So anybody that lives in Rossmore can go play tennis. There's not a fee for the tennis courts. It's supported by the shared cost. On the flip side of that is that there are many programs and services that are not available to the full population. For example, the RV lot. If you rent an RV space, it is exclusively yours. So it wouldn't be appropriate that the full community pay for and share in the cost of having an RV space for one individual resident. So there's a fee. Classes and so forth, personal training, golf lessons, those are a specific program for an individual taking those. So thus there is a fee. So it's kind of a fine line. There is some gray area within that, but that is the overall formula of what we build the budget on when we're looking at fees for services based on compared to what falls under the shared cost model of the coupon. Any questions about that? I do think this is a policy that's been around for a while, and it is probably time for the policy committee and the board to review that just to confirm that that is still how we want to continue to operate. But at this time, what we're presenting is based on that policy in terms of the fees that we'll be presenting.
But Jeff, that's kind of selectively enforced, in my opinion. Like bus services, I guess everyone can take it, but not everyone does. Counseling service, I guess everyone can do it, but counseling to me is similar to getting a golf lesson in that I choose to do that and I want to do that. So to me, those services should also have a charge associated with it versus not having a charge, and yet we choose not to at this time for both of those two that I can see. Those just two off the top of my head I see right now that we're selectively choosing not to agree to that policy.
So I think with the bus service, yes, everybody can utilize the bus service, but under a certain model, it becomes more individualized. And one of the things that we're looking at with the consultant, and one of the questions on the survey that hopefully people are completing, is to get some input on a nominal fee to offset some of the cost of operating. In terms of counseling, I don't really have a response to that right at the moment.
Can I just make a comment about counseling? With counseling services, we have to be very careful about charging for those services because it can push us into a health model. But we would have to do medical billing. So it's very restricted on what somebody can use. I mean, it's not like long-term counseling services.
Right.
And also when we charge for room rental, isn't that effectively assessing a fee? I mean, I ask myself oftentimes, like, how much money do we make from charging room rentals? And
I can't tell you offhand.
40,000, 80,000.
It's, come on, you'll see it's something.
So room rentals is a good one for setup fees. So a requested setup that triggers a fee to complete that is provided to the club or the individual requesting that. Not anybody can just show up and attend that, right? It is specific to the club or the individual renting, the member renting that amenity. Room rental fees is kind of the same thing, and it's actually in the policy that, you know, setups are a individualized or group thing, but that's something that I think the board and policy committee needs to kind of review to make sure we are in compliance with what the intent is. Okay, so the fees this time, we'll start off just with our, do we have the?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, go ahead and go up. So the first one really has to do with public safety. We have golf cart permits. This is where you register your golf cart on a regular basis. It's going from $15 to $20. We have sponsored guest RFID tags that are 25, recommended to go to 30. Contractors and realtors pay $35 for an RFID. It would go to 40. These are fees that we try and peg and increase on a consistent basis, but make sure we are still competitive and not pricing anybody out.
So I'm just trying to understand. So the sponsored guest is if I have my son come in on a regular basis and he gets an RFID?
Correct.
Just curious.
So the next section is on recreation and reservations. I'm going to turn this over to Ann to go through the next set of things here.
Can I drive on your computer?
Oh, I'm not driving actually.
He's driving.
Oh, all right. Okay, so essentially you can go to the next screen. You're gonna see as you go through room reservations, we're not proposing any increases in 2027. You can go again. There's like a few slides of these. But we did wanna include it in this more for the education of the community of, some text was decreed. It's deleted out of the slide. Okay, for golf, the same thing. So we wanted to show the golf fees as well, just to show where the fees are. There's no changes in these, but if you go to the next slide. One of the things that we were looking at is the driving range. And so we're going to be increasing how much it costs for bucket of balls, 15, 30, 60. So we did look at the different clubs in the area to get an idea of what the ranges were. And so just to kind of keep up with the market, and also in light of the fact that that particular amenity does get a lot of wear and tear. When we come to the budget, you're going to see an increase in the expenditure item for the driving range explicitly, because we have to, there's things there like the mats that need to be replaced and the ball pickers. So we will be increasing that. We do estimate an increase in revenue by almost 18,000.
And is that increase simply to offset the additional costs, or is it?
It's also to keep with the market on that. I mean, if you look at where we are compared to all these other golf ranges, we still have the best.
Yeah.
Deal
By a lot.
Significantly.
by a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be, a commercial operation, I'd be cranking it up.
But we're not.
But we're not.
But we're not.
It's just like saying
There's
your
room
gym
to grow.
membership,
There's room to
everything.
grow.
And that's why I'm wondering if this increase is simply anticipating offsetting additional costs that you're anticipating, or is it a moneymaker? Are we trying to make a little bit of money on it, or
I
is it
think
a
it's really important not to look at these things as moneymakers. We do still have a significant coupon contribution to support the golf course, but it helps
to
close the gap.
offset?
It's
cost.
offsetting the
It's
cost
really-
of the coupon, we pay for the whole operation one way or another. You'll also see as we go through, the budget process, that revenue in lessons is kind of declining a little bit. That's more because of the turnover in the staffing. We had a lot of senior people, they had their clientele build up. As we bring in these new pros that were kind of growing into that profession, into that position, it'll be probably a depression of revenue in that area before it builds up. So it's a way to continue to keep the
But I guess
coupon versus revenue contributions flat.
my real question here is that, I mean, we are significantly under the the competition. I mean, more than 50%.
But we are in golf. Can you go down and back up a slide where you look at the golf fees? Did you compare the golf fees to the different places? You didn't do that?
No, not this year.
Okay, but
But
we historically are.
But on this particular item, and, I mean, it seems like, I mean, it's not a huge amount of money, but we're talking,
It is an amenity that is open to the community, right? Golf is one of the things that, under the trust agreement, we can charge for. So we don't want to make this as a revenue generator. We still want it to be looked at as an amenity for the community. Yet there is a cost associated with operating it. There's, as Ann mentioned, there's some disposables in there. So we want to gradually keep addressing the fee, but we're not looking to be competitive with the market or even at a percentage within the market. We want to make sure we're trying to cover some of the costs associated with just having the range there.
I mean, I'd be sort of, I don't know, I'd be tempted to go 4, 6, and 9 or something like that.
I'm a golfer.
Yeah.
Let me just give you my thought.
Okay.
Okay. You got it, 9,000 people here.
Yeah.
We want to encourage more of those people to be playing golf. When they come and they just say, okay, I'm not sure I really want to spend the money being a member, but if they can go out there and hit some balls and practice and see what it is, or maybe even get a lesson, then that encourages them to maybe spend $2,000 a year per person. And if they have a wife, $4,000 per year. So by keeping this at a reasonable rate, you have a bigger chance of growing the population of golfers within Rossmore, and that's where you're gonna make all the money. So by increasing this, you're probably discouraging some people to say, no, I don't even wanna practice and try it, become a member. So I think it's a way to get people interested in golf. That's my theory.
Good point.
Yes.
Okay, investment.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a bonus. I mean, if you think about what a golfer gets here at Rossmore versus any other retirement community that has golf, this is one of the big selling points. You're attracting a lot of people that want to play golf just to come into Rossmore.
Yeah.
You don't want to make it not as attractive.
Okay.
Okay?
Point
Do
taken.
you agree with me?
Let's move on. Don't open. You've sold
Okay,
it already.
the next one is the RV rental.
So this is another one that we looked at. We haven't, there you go. We haven't increased fees since 2024. So we wanted to bump them 5%. Again, we're still, we're still competitive by doing this.
So we go from 1,000 to 1,050,
50 and
500 to 525.
525.
And our occupancy rate is still very strong.
Yeah.
So roughly, what's the total revenue in this category?
Excuse me?
What's the total revenue?
It's what, about 60-something thousand annually?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I honestly, I don't have the,
Okay, that's all right.
I don't have what it is now. Have that for the board meeting for sure.
Well, let's multiply that by 20. That number by 20.
Did you bring it up? 67,000?
67,542 as of July.
Units we did.
then, fitness and aquatics fees.
So this is our existing fee schedule, and we're not proposing anything in the existing personal training, small group training, our reformer classes, or some of the other, like the guest pass, the Parkinson's small group. But if you move to the next slide, there's been, so why is there,
It looks like the
15
PDF stripped the information.
okay, yeah, because I don't know if was it intentionally deleted. Okay, go to the next.
Absolutely not.
Because I.
That's the way it came, that's the way it is when I looked at it
Next
last night. I thought
See
it was
what's
so.
on there, because we can just talk about the numbers, okay. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to show, I just want to make sure that actually has the fees in the next one. So what we wanted to do is to take a look at our specialty classes. And so specialty classes essentially are those that require certification beyond what a personal trainer has. So there are things like bar, spin, certain water aerobics. And so this kind of has been a conversation that we've had at the Fitness and Aquatics Committee, as well as I think it went to the board, and then we were talking more with the Fitness and Aquatics Committee. And so what we wanted to do was kind of take a look at, you know, where we sit, first of all, in comparison to some other similar type communities. So one of the things, you can see Rossmore in the middle. So we currently offer, it's like 55, give or take, free classes per week to the community. In the past, it's been a very kind of inconsistent history of these specialty classes. Sometimes they're no fee, sometimes they're 17 to 17. So the history of it was that. And so when you look at what our monthly coupon is, it's a really great value. Just with the free classes that we have, you know, considering it's only, you know, $13, $15 per month. So if you go to the next slide. So what we wanted to do is to take a look at, when you look at some of these specialty classes, like in a studio, which is very focused on that one discipline, we wanted to look and see what a single class would cost. And you can see the price of these single classes for something like bar, for yoga, spin. You know, they're you know, you can't find anything less than $22, and it goes as high as $36. That's per class. And there are some discounts, but you might get 10% off of those prices. So if you go to the next slide. We also wanted to show what happened when you had more of a full service club format, similar to what we have, where those classes are included, but you can see that the monthly fees are more than 10 times what our coupon rate is. Keep going to the next slide. Okay. So we were working with the Fitness and Aquatics Committee. At first we went saying, well, let's look at a $5 per class, you know, fee and see what that would do. And not that it's bad to make a little bit more money, right? But we know that we're projecting about a $40,000 shortfall in our revenue for, we were last year, and also we're projecting that for this year. And so if we look at, like, with a minimum enrollment of 15 per class with a $3 fee, which is what the committee is recommending, that would yield 38,000, almost 39,000 in new revenue. And that's with the minimum enrollments. And so that is a new class fee that's being proposed. That slide, I think that was misdefined, defined what the specialty classes are, which was a request of the board.
And is this what been the comment from the on the staff, the RWC meetings on Thursday? The last 2 or 3 months, people come up complaining about this, basically, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a lot of these classes have, as Ann mentioned, have a history. We used to have some contract instructors that would offer a lot of specialty, and they ran their own rate. For a while, there wasn't any fee, but what we're proposing is when they fall into that category of specialty, and that requires a certain certification or a licensed, it's not just your general class, fitness class. Oftentimes, but not always, but oftentimes we hire somebody specific just to teach that class. They don't do anything else. They come in just to teach that class. So to cover those expenses and to give us the flexibility to be able to hire more of those people, we're proposing that it have a minimum of a $3 fee.
Is this what the Aquatics and Fitness Committee is recommending?
Yes.
Okay, so these classes are open to anyone though, right? Anyone can attend.
They're limited in size, so the first 20
If you're
people,
lucky, anyone can
25 people,
They're
depends on
usually-
where they're
So it's
held.
just like
It's on
golf,
the
if you wanna get in there, you gotta sign up at
Mhm.
7:29 or whatever time you sign up to get on. Just like if I want a tee time at a certain time, you gotta sign up, otherwise I don't get my tee time. The difference is I can get a later tee time. If you don't sign up for this class, you don't get it at all,
Right.
because there's only one class.
So to be sure, the amount of free classes is still the same, so the proportions are not changing about the amount of specialty classes and the amount of free classes.
We showed the free classes just to show the value that we're providing as part of the.
Understand?
But he's saying the free classes are still gonna be there. You're still gonna
Yes.
offer the 55.
It doesn't offset it.
This is just gonna be in addition to the 55 you showed, now you're gonna offer X number of these.
So I think the free classes, just like what David was talking about golf, are a good investment in the community's health, you know? So those need to be
If we
there.
want people to die, then we can sell fast.
No, they sit
Don't
empty.
put that in the minutes.
What we don't know though is how
Forget fitness.
many people have signed up for the free classes. They might all be empty. I mean, I don't, presumably they're not.
We track not attendance.
But yeah, I mean, you kind of ask the question like, well, if I've got 50 people signing up for a $5 class and only 2 people for one of the free classes, maybe I can shift those dollars. I mean, I don't know that.
We
from
have
what we're doing.
minimums, typically 15. Before we would, cancel a class, think of switching it, and all of those free classes, I think our demand is exceeding what we can offer right now.
Okay,
What else do I have here?
All right.
That's it. I think that's my last one.
Here's me, yeah, wanna talk about it? Sure. Okay, so, we are proposing to keep the contractor yard flat for 2027. We've gotten large increases from, 24 to 25 and 25 to 26. As you can see there, in 25, we were at 49,000, and in 27, we'll be at 52. In 24, we were somewhere around 32. So it's a really big jump from,
Before that, it was more or less given away, so.
yeah, so,
I have a question though. It seems to me we should be charging outside people more and not our residents more. So if we're gonna generate 30, we should be raising the fees to outside people whenever we can. Are we saying we can't raise them because we're priced too high compared to other places? Or we just can't raise them because we raised them 2 years ago?
we're not too high. Like, here's the situation is, yeah, on the outside of the valley, to rent the same yard space is more expensive. I don't know exactly what we're at per square footage now at the 52, because it's just been percentage increases. But, and I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, I'd have to go back into previous proposals, because I did do some research on the real estate market and what outside yards are going for. We were at about 50%. I think we're definitely creeping up on more around 70% now, I would think, 60%. But the situation is that these are contractors that we utilize regularly, that the valley utilizes regularly, that perform a lot of our emergency services, right? So having them here in the valley is an extreme benefit to not only the residents, but the mutuals themselves. They are the ones that go out and stop the bleeding when an accident is happening. So 5-star painting, they're really 5-star construction. They're the ones that come out if there's a water line leak anywhere. They're the ones that come out if there's any kind of water leak anywhere in the valley. AMAC Construction is not in the valley anymore. We've actually took their portion of the yard and split it up amongst the other ones. Freeman HVAC, he's actually our on-duty 24-hour super duty attendant, right? So Freeman AC is a huge partner to us. Obviously, Terra Landscape, really big. Warner Brothers, I don't know if anybody here knows about the tree that came down 2 weeks ago, and Warner was there within 30 minutes, clearing out the driveway, clearing out the entry so residents could get to their homes. That's the kind of service that we get from having them here in the valley.
Okay.
So that's my pitch,
Okay.
ultimately, at the end of the day.
And the point is, we're paying Warner for their services, so we're actually paying ourselves $6,000.
And what happens is every time I increase their fees, they're gonna increase their costs, right? So it's really, it's going straight to our residents and to our mutuals themselves.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question on the handyman. I've spoken to several of my neighbors about it, or they've talked to me about it, more to the point. And they said, well, I had it, but I mean, it takes so long to get somebody to come that it's just not.
We have hundreds of appointments a year, right, first of all, and we're constantly busy. So the contracts are not going down, we're not losing contracts. It is not an emergency service, right? It is supposed to be scheduled out in advance. So it's an excellent, excellent service at $300 per year.
Well, I'm just saying that several people I've talked to have said, I'm not going to renew it because it took too long for me to get somebody to come and, it's sort of change a light bulb. And in this actual case, it was a woman whose husband had just died and the lights in her kitchen weren't working and she couldn't get up there to fix them. She didn't know how. And, it was gonna be several weeks before, and I think eventually one of our neighbors went over and did it for her. And so, and I've seen Davis is now offering essentially a similar service. And so I'm just wondering, are we looking at this as, are we really providing a service that meets customer desire? And it sounds like we're not. And maybe we should be looking at it in a different way and saying, how do we better meet customer desire?
Or manage customer expectations. And,
That's the
I'm trying to visualize the little sign-up thing I get every year. And I don't think there's anything in there about expectations for, this is not an emergency service. If you have an emergency, call this number. And, here's what the expectation is for turnaround. It's something to make it clear to people so they know what they're getting if we can't provide an emergency service.
Or maybe we should be providing an emergency service is what I'm saying. Maybe we should be charging $500 a year and it includes an emergency service. So if I have a light bulb that goes out and I can't get up on the counter and do it. Somebody has.
But if you do that, you're gonna take, I have handyman, and if I went to $500, I wouldn't use it. But for $200 or whatever it is, I don't mind waiting 2 weeks for them to come out and fix X because it's not an emergency
If
service.
you have a backed up toilet,
You right.
But
you don't have a handyman.
all I'm trying to make the point is that not that the handyman, that what we're doing right now is necessarily wrong, but it is not necessarily meeting the needs, the desires of people living here.
Maybe there needs to be 2 levels of service.
Right.
Yes, maybe that's
What you could do is say, look, it's $300 and you know that it's scheduled whenever we can get back to you. But we could say, if you wanted to, if there's something that you need to have done within a day or two, there would be another $10 charge, just to move you up in the schedule so that
Your 300 or your 300 goes to $600.
No, I leave it at 300. Maybe you only have one incident in a year that you need emergency. The rest of them, you don't need emergencies. I don't want to pay $200 just because I got one. Maybe I don't even have an emergency that year. I wasted my $200. I'm saying you got a basic fee and then you got an add-on little fee for if I want to bump up in the order of who comes next.
Can you, I don't know, from a scheduling point of view, they could handle that.
They gotta hire
That's gonna be
people.
impossible.
Exactly,
so
I'm
just-
not trying to design it, okay? All I'm trying to say here is, I think we're missing a need the community has. We're not meeting that need with the service we currently have. There's an additional need. We could meet that need. It would be a source of revenue. It'd be, ideally, it'd offset the cost.
Yeah, what we would need to do is kind of do some measurement and see what the need is, and then what would the cost be to actually cover that on a regular basis? And is it a need that is better filled by us or by another vendor, because we basically operate on a nonprofit basis, right? So are we wanting to add a service that we are then trying to manage that would be better served by a different vendor? So I think there is a combination of what is the need, what are the expectations of the existing service, and what are we capable of delivering in a meaningful way. So in terms of what we're budgeting right now, I don't think there's a lot that we could do, but this is something that we could certainly do some evaluation of. It kind of also falls back on that whole, our billable services and what direction we're trying to go within that. Any other questions on the, I think, go up.
Alterations.
Any changes here?
Yeah, so on this one, we are proposing a 10% increase on all of the fees. We did not increase from 25 to 26. Same here, 10% increase to all fees for resales and alterations. Did not increase from 25 to 26.
And these fees really directly help offset the cost of
The building maintenance.
our operations. So these fees help keep our cost for our management fee really in RPM in check. Okay. Okay, so with the communications or ads and so forth, there's some increases that Ann is proposing in relation to subscriptions. This is really a reflection of cost for mailing these out on a regular basis. Of course, everybody's internal subscription is part of your coupon. This is for businesses or for relatives that may want to get the paper delivered. So we have some of that. Okay. We're not changing at this point any of our classified band monitors. Our ad rates, classified ads very closely with the market to make sure that we're able to stay competitive and a little bit ahead. One of the areas that we did, go ahead, the legal ads, those were a significant source of revenue because we're one of the few printed papers. There's just one minor change that we've added. She's added a small fee in terms of change of name. But again, these are ones where she monitors extremely close because we want to stay ahead because that is a good revenue source.
I'm sorry, the change in name, this shows no increase, but yet it says it's a 25% increase. Between 26 and 27, so there's gotta be just a slide, an error on the slide someplace.
Yeah, that could have been
Yeah, so you may wanna fix that before.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Those are just our
I had the same.
current rates. So we are really, there is a lot of the transition with the new website and between print and digital. And so again, these are all, we're making sure that we're not pricing out our realtors, but also want to provide them the best package opportunities that we can. Bus ads is something that we'll probably start to see go down a bit based on what the outcome of our transit study ends up being. But then we also have specialties in terms of inserts or the all-around Rossmore guide that gets published on an annual basis. And again, monitors those to make sure, if you can imagine, we're hitting the same basic advertiser in a lot of different ways, whether it's digital, the paper, or one of the specialty inserts. So we try and consistently monitor those. Give you a rate comparison based on our circulation. So stick on that. The amenity usage fee is our new name, and I don't know why the formula's not showing up there, but the formula is the coupon rate minus cable and broadband services. So it's the base coupon rate minus the cable and broadband divided by 2 equals the per person amenity usage fee. So it will be set based on whatever the final coupon amount is. And then that revenue goes into the operating. So we basically, it's formula driven. So whatever they adopted coupon ends up being for RWC.
So why do you take it
Because that is paid for by the individual still. So the person that owns the unit is still paying the coupon. So cable's already paid for once.
I'm sorry, guys, I just want to confirm that the data is there. It just stripped the content on some of the pages when transferring PowerPoint to PDF. So I'll get that fixed after the meeting.
So it's approximately 150 per person per month. Is what the fee ends up
We
being.
had a discussion a while ago whether it should be part of the capital fund or the operating fund, and we decided, can you refresh my memory? I don't remember.
Yes, we kept it with operating, because basically it is tied to use of amenities similar to what the coupon would cover. You're attending, you're playing golf, you're attending fitness centers, you're going to the movie theater.
Even if you're not going.
No, yeah.
Yeah, whether
You
they're
have the
going
right
or
to go.
not, whether you go,
Yeah,
you have the right to go.
exactly.
Okay.
You caught me there.
Okay.
We have some items we have to vote on.
We have to vote on the whole thing. So anyone want
Well, yeah, but subsequent item too, so let's go.
to, that's the last slide,
Yeah,
right?
that's the last thing.
So anyone want to make a motion to approve this?
Second.
What?
I move that we recommend to the board that to approve the amenity fees as presented.
The amenity fees?
The
The fee schedule is.
fee schedule.
Second?
Harry,
Yeah,
second.
seconded.
Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Certainly, Reed,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Castillo,
Yes.
Jennings,
Yeah.
Singh,
Yes.
and Byron.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Ian, I think you're up next.
Yes. So just, the next 2 items have to do with our pavement program. The first one is considering a recommendation for an expenditure of 165,000, and that's for pavement maintenance. There you go, and there's the photo of the areas that would be addressed in this particular project. This is part of that RWC facility maintenance line item that is now in the capital budget. We did go out for some bids, and Rose Paving was the lowest bidder. You can see we're asking for approval of their contract in the amount of $153.30. The full 165 that we're asking authorization for includes contingencies.
There was another,
Yeah.
another attachment showing the bids.
150, 156. This is the lowest bid.
Lowest bid.
So mostly it's just for Leisure Lane, am I getting that?
No, there's more. Oh,
Rose.
Leisure Lane and Hillside Pool parking lot.
no, so they only attached one of them here. But she had up on the screen another one.
There are the bids.
Yeah.
Okay,
Full depth. The other one is a full depth, so it's in the other, it's in the next item down. Yeah, it's down.
okay, anyone want to make any further discussion on this? If not, anyone want to make a motion?
I move that we recommend to the board to approve an expenditure not to exceed 165 for the facility and maintenance budget as well, and to execute a contract with Rose Paving. And recommend to the board to approve a capital budget expenditure not to exceed 753.
No.
No?
We'll do two separate motions.
Oh, she just showed them up there. We're just doing,
Just
okay,
do
sorry,
the-
I'll stop, sorry.
Just do- Can you read that again, please?
Look, can you restate your motion?
I can. I move that we recommend to the board to approve an expenditure not to exceed 165,000 from the RWC facilities and maintenance budget for pavement maintenance projects and authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Rose Paving LLC for $153.38.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? If not, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Ring,
Yes,
Star,
Yes.
Steele,
Yes.
Jennings,
Yes.
Singh,
Yes.
and Byron.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
okay, the next one, Ian,
So the next item is for full depth pavement replacement, which we pay for out of our capital, our prioritized capital budget. And so the recommendation is for an expenditure not to exceed 753,410. And you'll see the contract is with Silicon Valley Paving for 684,918. So the difference includes the contingency. I think those are the bids.
Yeah, those are the
Yep, those
bids.
are the bids. Silicon Valley was the lowest for this.
just a quick comment, if those people consistently don't reply, are we gonna take them off the list and get other people on the list?
No, we reach out to different companies, so these are kind of new ones that haven't, these are new ones that haven't replied. And a lot of times they don't because of the work that they have, it's not that they're just non-responsive.
Any further discussion? If not, anyone wanna make a motion?
I will move that we recommend to the board to approve a capital budget expenditure not to exceed 753,410 for full depth pavement replacement projects and authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Silicon Valley Paving for 684,918.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I do have a small question. The contingency, we put a 10% contingency on it. How often do we actually use that contingency? Or how much do we typically?
I haven't seen it used, but it's typically you carry that instead of having to come back to the board.
No, I understand why.
So-
just
But actually,
interested
since I've
in,
been here, we haven't used it.
Are we actually using it or is it?
Depends on the project greatly.
Yeah, I mean, like with
You know,
paving project.
Paving, it could be we uncover something that we didn't anticipate, or we need to do an extension, or a man cover could be set wrong. There's a number of things that could pop, but usually the amount is somewhat known and anticipated in advance, so we don't run into it, but it does occur.
It does occur, so it's reasonable that we're putting
Absolutely.
10% in. Okay, that's fine. That's all I'm gonna know.
Did we have a roll
Thank
call
you.
vote?
Not yet.
Okay, can we, no further comments, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Green?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Castillo?
Yes.
Jennings?
Yes.
Singh?
Yes.
And Byron?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, the last item, just to remind everyone, the joint meeting of the Board of Directors of Finance Committee is Tuesday, September 8th, possibly Wednesday, September 9th, starting at 9 o'clock in the fireside room. If you ask for hard copies of the budget, Deborah will send out something to let you know when they'll be available to pick up in her office. The electronic copies will go out September 3rd. Okay, otherwise, we'll see you all then, and then the next meeting here is September 22nd. Thank you.
Thank you.